welcome to Empowered by AI. I'm Michelle Nutsi-Silva. This podcast is for women building what's next and using AI with intention. In Season 6, you'll hear from founders, educators, creatives, and builders who are actually using AI to think better, work smarter, and move with intention. We're learning from conversations about readiness, literacy, and taking action, because every episode gives you ideas you can use immediately. Let's get into it. All right. I am thrilled because today we have two amazing guests. We have Nathania, we have Stephanie, and they are going to talk to us all about what they're working on right now and how it is going to impact the world in beautiful ways. So what we're going to do is we're going to hand it over. Nathania, let's start with you and have you introduce yourself. And then Stephanie, we'll have you follow right up with that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michelle. We're happy to be here and chat with you about something, that's meaningful to us both. I'm based in Switzerland, and Stephanie and me, funny enough, we've never met in real life. So we've known each other for now, I think, is it 3 years?
I think it is 3 years, yeah.
I'm down for a trip to Switzerland. I mean, we need to do this in person, right?
And I just think it's so beautiful, what kind of friendship developed throughout these 3 years, and how close we feel and how we talk almost daily, really, about everything and nothing in the world. And so to actually then also have a project that you work on together, that's just so much fun, and that we're passionate about similar things. And, specifically women and AI. And we met, funny enough, we met in a community builders group with Heather Parody that she was leading, and we met there. And then from there, we realized we were both involved and excited about techie things. And so, we just connected. And that's really sort of how, slowly but surely, it was a long way coming, but Awedacity came about. And we're both very excited about it. Yes. Do you want to, I don't want to say too much yet.
I know, I'm excited to hear about Awedacity, but we just want to give Stephanie just a minute.
Thank you.
So like Nathania said, we met in that community builders mastermind and just had some things in common, some things that we were interested in. Nathania was doing some interesting work with the Metaverse. I had this idea about doing sort of like a digital women's empowerment conference. And we were like, oh, what if we, join forces and hold a women's empowerment conference in the Metaverse? And as far as we know, because no one's corrected us that it was the first one, maybe it's the only one, I don't know. It could be the only one to ever take place in the Metaverse, but we did it for 3 years. We held it annually. Yeah. We were able to feature tons of digital artists, artists working with AI, all women, had speakers, had people. Logistically, the tech was insane because we had some non-tech, certainly some non-metaverse savvy people. So they had the option of attending via Zoom. So we were streaming Zoom. So people were in the Zoom, and then we were streaming Zoom into the Metaverse. It was quite... I don't think
you just needed it to be a little more complicated.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what we were, but we did it. We pulled it off, and people loved it. I mean, it really was so much fun, and it definitely, I think, set the stage for us just realizing that what we cared about really was leveraging the technology to advance women. So it didn't necessarily matter what the technology was. We weren't passionate necessarily about the Metaverse per se. We thought it was cool and fun, and the technology was great, and we enjoyed it. But then as tech trends change, we had to sort of adapt and kind of go where the attention is. And then the attention started going more towards AI. So we sort of always envisioned Awedacity to be kind of like a holding kind of company for all these like women-led projects. So it gave us a ton of flexibility in that it was like not very defined. It was defined by, again, like using technology to shine a light on women. So whatever that looked like for us. So we've been able to be flexible and responsive, I think, to kind of what people care about and what people want to see. And by launching these different projects under that umbrella, and just, Awedacity, just a little backstory, like we spell it AWE Awedacity. And it's a little play on words, had its roots in the idea that when you're sort of in awe of like this larger goal, this thing that is like bigger than you, that's the juice that kind of propels you. Sometimes you need that when you're like, what am I doing? Why are we putting Zoom in the metaverse? Like these insane things. Like that's why, because you kind of have this larger vision of like, wouldn't that be really cool to be able to do that and say that we did it and say that we were the first ones to do it. So if it's all right with you, I'll go into like kind of what we're
Yes.
working on now, and we can.
Yeah, would love to hear about it.
Well,
Yeah, that would be great. Like,
yeah. What happened was like AI. Of course, it didn't just come about, but it came across our radar. We started playing with it. We were excited about it, but kind of like we were using it as a tool ourselves. But we kind of always wanted, like, how can we use this to advance women? Like, what can we do what's a woman-centered way we can implement this technology? Was kind of where we were at with it. So one of the things that we noticed right off the bat, and I'll let you talk more about this, Nathania, because you were so instrumental in putting this part of it together. One of the things that we noticed was what everyone was complaining about was that it's biased and that it's clear that it was, programmed by a bunch of tech bros in Silicon Valley. And it's clear that based on the outputs, that it is very tend towards more patriarchal output, and that women weren't really feeling seen by these tools, and they weren't really loving what they were getting out of the box. Yes. And again, this was at the time people really weren't even talking about customizing Chat GPT, because that's when everyone started talking about it. And of course you can do that. But what we were hearing was, out of the box, it was like cool, but like feeling left out, that it just didn't, out of the box, it was not giving these like really great results. So we have this idea around maybe we can create our own model, custom train our own model that out of the box functions as a woman-centered AI. Nathania, do you want to take this part of it where you can talk about how we set up those initial sessions and the questions and
yeah,
work?
absolutely. It was fantastic because we had been working with a lot of women at these annual functions we were holding. That you mentioned, Stephanie. We had connections with different women, and so it was really fun to get them together. So what we did, we gathered women and we did a live call, and it was really fantastic because it was women from all over the world. So it was really, it really had a global feel, and global themes were discussed, and we kept it very low barrier, and the idea really was for it to be a relational space. So there was no tech knowledge needed. What we wanted was an organic conversation with women about why do we feel AI feels flattened or too corporate, or, has this male default, or, sometimes the tone just feels off, that kind of thing. So we really just wanted to get women in a space where we could have honest, authentic, organic conversations. And so we put together, some questions, and it was like 2-3 hour sessions. And we did that several times. And obviously with the permission and their consent, we recorded these sessions. And we had conversations about moments that they felt unseen, or moments, where you tune into your body wisdom, or where you reclaim your truths, or, things maybe you're leaving behind, things you want more of. It was really just sort of I think as women, we go through so many similar experiences, but we package them differently, and depending on obviously where we are and who we are and our background, we experience them differently, and we relay them differently. So it was really just beautiful to have this conversation. And then through that was really what allowed us to create the brain, the prompts. And Stephanie, you can talk about this because you were absolutely instrumental in this. That data that we collected through these conversations really allowed us to build prompt disco. So it was just a really beautiful experience because we came together, and we talked about topics everyday kind of things. And then also very specifically about AI, but it was really just having this conversation about our lived experiences as women, and that was just it was a really, really cool way to collect this organic data to build Prompt Disco.
And that's what I want to find out a little bit about. So when you say data, I'm interested in what that looks like for you. What is that data? Are we talking about audio? Are we talking about transcripts? Are we talking about both? And then Prompt Disco begs explanation because I'm grooving on the name. So what is that all about, and how does it capitalize on that data?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You has that. Yeah.
I mean, definitely, Nathania does such a wonderful job of creating these spaces and holding these spaces for women. That's always been like the biggest asset that I feel like she brings, is that she's able to get like conceptually go, okay, we're going to get all the women together. We're going to hold the space. These are the questions, and she put all these amazing questions together that were very deep, very deep questions, but like almost, I think maybe if at first I was like, people going to answer this? You know what I mean? Like, cause they were deep, and it was just incredible the way everyone sort of came together, and it just, because she was able to kind of create the space for that, and that was a huge part of it. People felt comfortable there. They felt comfortable sharing. She was able to guide the conversation in a way that didn't feel like it was, a put on. Sometimes it feels very performative when you're in these spaces. But all of that was amazing. So essentially what we did, I mean, it really wasn't anything fancy, was we recorded the call and got the transcript from the call. And I took the audio transcript, and we were just working with ChatGPT and said, okay, gave it tons of context. I mean, of course it has tons of context at this point about what we're trying to do, and the goals these are already conversations that we had been having with ChatGPT. And it was, go through this transcript and pull out all the salient points and pull out all the data you think you'll need so that we can create an experience for women that does not feel so white, default, male, Western centered. Because we had women from all over, we did get great data. It was women from different backgrounds, different colors, different demographics, different parts of the world. So there were things I think that we even didn't necessarily immediately think of. So we were able to take all of that data, put it into ChatGPT, say, okay, what do you got? And I didn't even give it any like rules around what kind of output I was looking for, but it generated a spreadsheet. I was like, perfect, where it kind of like thematically had come up with like the common threads, common themes, broke things down for us about like themes that had come up repetitively, was able to draw some conclusions around that. Like at that point, I really didn't have to do anything with the output other than feed it into, which what I use is Pickaxe, which is like a no code AI builder. So it builds on, almost like a white label wrapper. So it's like building on, you can choose the under the hood what you want it to be. So it's running as a customized ChatGPT brain or Claude. We've played around with different things for it. But Prompt Disco essentially is what we named the brain. And the idea is that this brain is the dance floor where you can interact with it, and you're going to get better conversations out of the box than you would for any of the tools, because it's essentially a woman-centered tool first and foremost. And then what we did at that point was then come up with different kinds of just customized, things like social media coach, and gave them personalities and names and faces. So we've got like Zoe, the TikTok coach, who can help you with your TikTok account. But again, what she's going to give you for a response already, you're going to prompt it, but what you have under the hood, it's already, a lot of the heavy lifting is already done, because she's not going to come back with a result that feels Western default, male centered, white, Caucasian centered, it's not going to come out of the box like that. You're already going to have a better result. And then it frees you up to kind of get into the more nitty gritty about what you want it to do. And you don't have to worry about that whole other piece of like, oh, this sounds biased. I've got to now fight the bias or come up with some sort of customization. So essentially we've got like the handful of tools, a couple of social media coaches, something we call the disco ball, which is basically it asks you a series of questions and then it comes up with kind of like a custom mega prompt for you as like a person that like, this is who I am, this is what I value. And you can take that and use it in our environment or take it and go wherever you want to go with it. You can take it and use it to prompt chat GPT or Claude or whatever it is that you use. But again, it's always coming at it, I think, with a lot of the heavy lifting already done. So you're already you're dealing even at ground zero, you're dealing with something that's not biased, that's more woman-centered. So you're not having to do all of those extra parts. So that was kind of like, I think sort of just the sort of exploring phase that we were in, like trying it out, seeing people liked it. And then it kind of started moving in a direction, hopefully, into more monetizable. Can we charge for this? Can we get like a subscription going? And it sort of morphed over time. It's right now, I mean, there's a little bit of confusion in all honesty, where we kind of have like two products we're kind of like playing with, but basically under the hood, it's all the same. It's more about the marketing, about, where we're trying to go with this. So right now, kind of like the current version of what we're working on is called the Feminine Intelligence Agency. So it's feminineintelligence.ai. Again, just because so then it is exactly what it sounds like. You're not like, what is like prompt disco is great and fun. And we like the environment that it created, but it doesn't tell you much about what it is. Just hearing the name. So the whole idea about the Feminine Intelligence Agency came about where essentially you've got these different tools and different customizations and these different personas, these feminine intelligence agents is what we're calling them, that can help you with your, like again, with a TikTok post or, help you with a specific problem. And the idea hopefully is to kind of build that out into sort of a suite of products where it's, maybe some different things we've played around with idea wise are kind of like an audio journaling conversation partner. Personal, I really like the idea of giving these female names and female personalities instead of just a generic thing. I think that makes them more relatable. Like, oh, I'm going to have a conversation with, there's Maya, the monetization maven, where it's like, how can I monetize this? There's another one that, of course, I should have.
That's what I was just going to ask you about is like, do you have particular use cases already teased out? Or do you have like a call for beta testers where they're, recommending particular use cases? How are you helping yourself narrow this down?
Yeah, we've done several. So right now we've got the woman-centered AI. That's just the base model. We've got Builder. That's the disco ball. And then we have what we're calling the FIQ. That's the Feminine Intelligent Quotient Test, where it's much more involved. You answer a bunch of questions and it comes up with a category defining niche that you could monetize. So like you're someone who is able to, figure out connections, your pattern recognition is high and you're good at this and you're good at that. And if you put all those things together, here's a really interesting niche for you. And here's how you could possibly monetize that. And it gives you some ideas around what you could do. And then we have Sage, the boundary baddie, Maya, the monetization maven, Mia, the Instagram icon, and Zoe, the TikTok tempest. So those are kind of the people, the women. And again, ideally, like to build out sort of a suite of feminine intelligence agents so that you can get, oh, I don't have to figure out the prompt. I can just go use this tool because that's what I'm trying to achieve. And I know I skipped your question about the beta testing. We've done several beta tests over the past year, at least, where it's been released, like try it out, get some feedback. So right now, like that's currently where it's at. It's currently live. I think the last time I did a beta request was probably like a month ago and took some of that and am working on implementing some of the things that we got back. And one of that things is really like, can we take this and turn it into where it's, like I said, a suite of feminine intelligence agents. So now it's like army of women that you can go to and be like, I need help with this specific, writing. I'm just, spitballing here, but like, writing a resume, as opposed to going, I want to write a resume and you're always starting from zero. Like you just click, it's kind of, it's pre-populated with a body of knowledge, already woman-centered, already knows the things that it needs to know, and then you just got to worry about providing it with your specific details.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I answered all. Shit,
You did. And do you have a process yet where you're looking at updating it, filling gaps that you see coming up as more and more people use it? Like what's your long-term goal with this?
That's a great question. Honestly, I think we're trying to get a shippable version that's,
Mhm.
that is fully fleshed out. Right now. It doesn't, it feels a little undone, quite honestly, because we kind of morph from one project to another. But I think that's ultimately the goal is as I update, like, when someone new is created, we'll drop that in some of the groups that we're in. I have a couple Facebook groups that are pretty reliable, but I can get some people to test, what do we think about this? What do we like? What do we not like? And build out from there. And it might just be it could just pan out to be like an agent by agent process where it's like, okay, let's see about this kind of agent. Do people like it? Do people not like it? What kinds of conversations are they having? Because the times in the past when I've done the beta, I've said, because this is beta, I'm going to see the back end, so I can sort what are people asking? What kinds of questions are they asking? Because that's really helpful data to know. People say they like it, great, but like how many times do they have to have a conversation with it in order to get what they were asking? I just had someone who we've worked with in the past when I had given her our latest tool to try, which is the FIQ. I saw where she had messaged me and said, yeah, it's not really working for me. And I was able to go back in and see her encounter and see, oh, actually, she was using the wrong tool, which is my bad. I should have just given her the link to that specific tool and not the whole platform. But she didn't realize, and she had clicked on the wrong tool and was having a conversation with the monetization Maven tool, because that's, of course, what it would sound like. That would be the right one. But I would have never known. I mean, we would have gone back and forth and I would have been like, oh my God, I don't know why it's not working. I saw like, oh, she's trying to have the conversation that I asked her to have, but she's having it with a different tool. So that part is, of course, really helpful. But I think that's what Nathania and I, what we do as far as like, I mean, you can jump in here, Nathania, because I'm kind of blabbing on, but like when we roll these things out, it ends up being like everything we do is a result of an organic conversation between the two of us, because have other, things that we work on in lives and things that we do and do or don't have time to devote for whatever it might be. So we'll kind of regroup and say, okay, where are we at? Where do we want to go with this? What's the next, and we don't break it up like by quarter or anything that official, but we'll look at like the next couple months. What's everyone's schedule like? How, what kinds of things are we available for? How much room do we have, right, for this? So that also factors in hugely with what we do and how quickly we do it. And, when her and I are able to connect, because we do try, and so far we've been pretty good at it. We do try to always make sure we're both on calls, even with the time gap, we try to make sure that we can both be there for like the last one you and I spoke. But other than that, it's, I think, pretty much been just, we've been able to pull that off, which has been great. It's hard with the time difference.
With the time difference.
Yeah. And Nathania, do you have plans to bring more groups together as you all grow this and have more input from more women?
That's a good question. I mean, we've discussed, these different agencies like feminine intelligence agents that we want to bring in and different topics because, we also come with our backgrounds and both of us have, for example, background in somatic work. And so that was a conversation we've had a few times, is that something we want to bring in? Is there a tool around that we want to incorporate? And when we discuss, these different tools that we want to have part of it, then sometimes we do think of, getting specific women together and having a conversation just because 1 + 1 is 3. Like just the more input we have and the more conversations we have, the more dynamic it gets. And we can learn so much from each other. So we don't have anything specifically set up or already, but it's a conversation we have depending on sort of, which topic or which new tool we're looking at. Because that is definitely, and we're also trying to figure out, I think, with conversations we're having with women, what would women like to see? What are tools that are missing? And that those are conversations to have. So sometimes it's really about specific tools we're thinking of where we want to gather information, and other times it's more, okay, there's so much, where do we want to go and what's needed? What's missing? What are things, women are looking for and what would be helpful? So yeah, definitely. And this is where, these conversations are very helpful.
Yeah. And there are so many women that are interested in something like this, I would imagine. Where
Mhm.
can they find it and connect with you if they want to be a part of this movement that you're building?
Yeah, well, go ahead.
No, that's good. I was going to share the website, obviously. Do we still have the contact tool on there, the contact form?
Well, we have the best way would be to email us, and that's team at
Yeah,
awedacity.com.
Yeah. Or by
and, yeah. And then also, if they want to try the tool, it's feminineintelligence.ai to be able to try that out. And I think I changed. I think it's like 10 runs you get before it asks you about payment.
Yeah.
So you do,
think
and that's the other thing, is sort of balancing that, because you're balancing token use, which costs you, with getting feedback, which, so it's like, playing that game of like, all right, we want to be able to have people try it enough that they get a sense of what it is and what it can do. And you're not going to get that in like 1 or 2 runs. You need to be able to spend a little bit of time interacting with the tool.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we
I'll write
definitely
them in
need
the
some-
chat and then you have them.
Oh, this is perfect. Okay. So we're going to be adding this to the show notes
Yeah.
so that people can have this. Yeah.
And I think you can probably drop in a little contact tool in the feminine intelligence. That might even be easier.
Yes. Yeah, because we've had that in before, but
For this one we didn't, but because we didn't have anything we were trying to get people for.
exactly.
Usually it's like, these things come about just as a need that we have. We're like, all right, well, we'll build it and put it in.
Exactly.
And we really haven't been collecting names since this last iteration. Because that's the thing we're doing. We just basically iterate, put it out, see what we get, and then and then talk, iterate again, like anything else. Except, our timeline is very broad. We're not doing this in a super tight, compressed timeline. We had the conversations, the first prompt disco conversations last year at this time. Right? It was like last
Yeah.
That's
I think it's important to allow yourself to go slow, because again, that's part of that corporate industry residue that we're bringing with us, right? It's like timelines and deadlines and zoom. And it's like, but if you don't listen to your audience, if you don't go into it hearing them and solving those pain points specifically, then you've just created something that is going to fall flat. But you all are doing the smarter thing and taking your time and listening and creating those spaces, as you brought up, those safe spaces where women are willing to share. Because I found that's part of it too, is that building that trusted environment where women are willing to step into it and be their honest selves. That's huge. So huge kudos to you.
Well, the space is so noisy. I mean, it's very easy to get swept away because now it's reached this point where it's not even every day. It's several times. It's like, this is the new thing. Now this is the new thing. Now you have to do it like this. Now you have to do it like that. To the point where I look at even like my notifications, it's like 50% of them are AI related, about some new thing, some new feature, some new video that someone made on how to do whatever with whatever. Very, very noisy space. And I think that's kind of what I think we do it. I think we do all right with that, where we kind of set ourselves apart because we're not hustle culture. We're not grind it out. We're like, this is just an organic thing that we developed as a conversation. We're not, we don't have corporate sponsors. We're not funded. No, we're none of those things. We don't operate in those spaces at all, probably to our detriment, but we don't. We don't operate in any of those spaces. And yeah, so I mean, it just meant everything that we do is just like, okay, do we have the capacity for this? And if we do, we move forward, and if we don't, we wait, and we don't get too hung up on getting left behind or missing out or whatever, because we know what we stand for. So we don't have to, I don't believe we need to play that game, because we know more than anything, no matter what the technology is, what we care about is, can we center women? Can we use technology to center women? Can we leverage the technology to advance things that women care about, whatever that might be? And even if it's, use our tool instead of ChatGPT, and using something that's woman centered under the hood, you're still getting all the knowledge base underneath it all is all the same. So it's, people who kind of take that, like, no more money for the overlords. Uh, so wait, because that's out there. I mean, I see it a lot, where I think, we don't need to overcorrect and make it like excessive about it. But like, so we try to be very moderate. Hey, we're here, we're in the space. We know we struggle with this early on. We know there are people that are anti-AI. We know there are people that they won't even have the conversation because of the environmental impact or whatever. Like, we decided very early on to not play that game, because you can get lost. You don't actually, if you're too busy arguing and trying to come up with counter arguments as to why AI matters, it's like you can just spend all your time just doing that, and then you're actually not creating anything. And that's, I think we always cared. We want to actually have a product, something we care about, something we've created, and not spend our time, because it's an easy trap, I think, to fall into, because I know I started to not spend all our time educating people on why AI is important for women. Other people are doing that. We don't need to be doing that too. We don't need to take up that cause. Like, we're just like, I feel like the proof is in the pudding. Like, try it. See if this isn't
Absolutely. I think we want women to feel seen when they use AI.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, we want women to actually really help shape it and help AI evolve. And so I think, yeah, like you said, Stephanie, I guess that was a decision we made at some point, where we were looking for women that are excited about it, that are sort of already there. They've dipped their toe into this world of AI. We don't want to convince you that it's worth, exploring and using, but we want you to get excited about it and really see yourself in it, and have it be able to mirror you, and, use it to your benefit. I think that's a big one.
You've chosen agency.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I think one of the things that always struck me in the argument, the anti-AI argument, and that it's, patriarchal, like, we shouldn't use it because, right? It's patriarchal. It centers Western, white, male, blah, 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 blah. Okay, great. So what does that mean? How does that play out? So that means that all the people that you don't like their ideals are going to be the only ones using this technology that is incredibly powerful, and all the people that don't have that mindset or don't want to adopt that mindset are not going to use it. I'm like, that's a massive disconnect for me. I'm like, if anything, that means you should be using it. Why would you let the people that say that you don't believe they should have all this power, you're letting them have all the power by not saying, I'm going to use this too, but I'm going to use it for, and that is not to say that there aren't people out there that use AI for good. And I'm not trying to get into a man bashing thing here at all, but that's the argument you hear. You hear the same, you hear, no matter where I go, I hear the same kinds of arguments from women. Yeah. Those are the two things you hear.
Yeah. And we've actually had the most fascinating conversation with my son about this, because he's about to graduate high school, and this was quite a few months ago, we were doing all the SAT runs, right? Where can you take your test? All these different places. So we were in the car a lot together, and I was driving him back from an SAT, and we were listening to a Social Saturday. And I can't remember what had happened in the moment, but I think it had something to do with Palantir and data. And one of the arguments was, well, we should just remove ourselves from all things online data. And my son just started shaking his head, and he was just shaking his head. And the conversation went on. We wrapped up the call. I ended the call, and I said, you had an opinion about something. And he goes, yeah. He says, why remove yourself when you can get deeper involved and make change? And that was his argument, was that you don't remove yourself from a situation, you make change in that environment by being in it. And so I thought, all right, I'm not worried about you going into the world. I'm okay. You go with your bad self. Cause I mean, I'm thinking, okay, at 17, that's a pretty good mindset to have. Is that, you know, you're about to enter the world and you see it's a hot mess. You see what needs to change. You don't necessarily change it by your absence. And an argument could be made on the contrary, I'm sure. You know, I mean, there are many conversations to be had about that, but I am a little bit more, I think, aligned with you in that it's not through my absence that I'm going to make the biggest impact, I don't believe. I think it's through not only being in the space, but showcasing other women that are in the space. Like, okay, you are not alone in thinking about this. You're not alone in this concern. Here's how it might look to take action. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's spot on, because otherwise we risk being left out of shaping it. If we're not shaping AI, it will shape us without us.
Exactly.
So I think that is why it's so important that we're involved.
Yeah. I think Anne Murphy says that too. There's no cavalry coming. We are the cavalry.
I posted in a Facebook group. I really poked the bear with this one, but like I basically said, by not using AI because of the patriarchy, you're actually supporting the patriarchy. That's what you're doing. Like your inaction is basically supporting, because they're going to use it no matter what. You think that they're going to go, maybe we shouldn't. What about the ethics? Not happening. Not happening. So quite a few women didn't really like that when I said that.
Yeah.
To put it mildly. And it was a lot. It was a lot. I mean, it was like a barrage of like pretty unhinged response, to be honest. I was like, whoa, like this is a nice test for my nervous system, because I'm gonna fight every urge I have to delete this, and I'm just gonna sit with it. Nathania and I talked about it. I was like, well,
Yeah.
I think it needs to be said. And maybe it was, maybe I kind of took it a bit too far, but sometimes it's like you kind of have to, I think, to kind of get people to like wake up and go, if you don't use this, someone else is. It's not going to go away because you don't like it. We're not going to go backwards. We're never going to go backwards. And I remember this, I'm old enough to remember early internet and stuff, oh, I'm not going to go on the internet. I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? I can't wait. Like the first chance I bought a domain name like a bazillion years ago. It's gone now, of course. I should have hung onto it. But that's what I kept hearing was like this. No, it's bad. No, it's, and I mean consumer internet. Of course, I know the internet existed in the 60s and 70s, but I'm talking about like the advent of the consumer internet. People were like, no. And I was like, what? This is the best thing ever. And what do you think? It's going to go away because you don't like it? Because you think it's the robots are going to take over the world? That's not going to happen. Technology will never go backwards. It's never, ever going to happen. So you either need to, figure out how to work with it or get used to being uncomfortable, because it's going to keep going on whether you jump on board or not,
Yeah. There's certain movements that are not going to be a flash in the pan. Yeah.
And I think we're both interested in, building tech that doesn't disconnect us from ourselves. So I think that's a big concern people have as well. I think, and that's I think what we did with collecting that data for the prompt disco brain. It was really something very human, in these emotional spaces, and where we want AI to meet that depth that we have as humans, and especially as women as well. So I think that's an interesting aspect, or an important aspect. I think that's important to us as well. We wanted, and the more, and that's why I like that we have that, the prompt builder, as part of our feminine intelligence agency. So somebody who's not yet done that or not used to it yet, it's really about sort of meeting yourself first and understanding yourself first, your own values, your tone, your rhythm, your own depth, and then have AI mirror that and use that so it can then meet you where you're at, rather than feeling this constant disconnect when you don't feel seen or heard or,
Yeah. Yeah. And I just want to encourage the audience to reach out to you. They're going to find you at feminineintelligence.ai. And then you're over at Instagram at Team Awedacity. So we want to recognize Awedacity spelled AWE, Awedacity, as Stephanie pointed out at the beginning of the show. And you can email them as well at team@awedacityhq.com. So we have a plethora of ways that people can engage with this organic, beautiful project. I would just encourage you to reach out. Nathania and Stephanie are doing some amazing, amazing work. Thank you so much for turning us on to this. I love this. And I love the agency that you're creating for women. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us, Michelle.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
thanks for having us, Michelle. Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Empowered by AI, and I'm your host, Michelle Muncie Silva. If something from this episode clicked, don't let it stop here. Take one idea and try it out this week. And if you want to go deeper, head over to the Empowered by AI, The Slay Effect YouTube channel, where you can watch demos and walkthroughs from our guests today and so many others. Like, subscribe, and join us there so you don't miss out on what's coming next. All the links and resources are in the show notes. I'll see you next time.